Hello there guys, my name is David Solgardner. I'm not wholly sure where this one might go, this video blog, but I've been doing some step work as a part of my recovery in chronic pain and chronic illness, and it's been quite a challenge because it asks you to go to quite a lot of deep places, and my last sort of video blog was around my transplant and things like that, and I sort of just finished watching a movie about a father and son and their relationship, and a Scottish golf course, and how he loses his wife and baby son in childbirth. And he then goes on to win this golf tournament, but dies. And the movie is very much about the relationship of father and son, and that male bond, and how something I've been looking at in my step work is how I connect with men, and my relationship with men and my relationship with women, and it's interesting because this son's father, while the father's playing, holds some information back so he doesn't get back in time to see his wife and his child born and then dying. It made me reflect on several things, because he then forgives his dad before passing, and I was sat thinking about people who suffer with miscarriages, and how those happen, and Buddhism, where they meditate on the fact of death, and how close we are to death. I've been working with a friend around his illness and things, and I spoke with my sponsor today about how meeting as humans, and hospitals, and how we believe, one, quite strongly, that the NHS, and we're very fortunate to have it, how it has the answers. It holds all answers for all ills. And it's made me reflect upon the fact that actually that's not the case in regard to my condition. For 26 years, I was the only known case of my condition. So for 26 years, 27 years, 29, 28, 30 years, I was the only known case of my form of this particular creation of my condition, and the turbulence my family went through as a whole, going to different appointments, and how we're taught from quite a young age to place quite a lot of faith in doctors, NHS, and in that training, and as I've got older in this condition and it's progressed, you see how being quite unique is a challenge, because there's not a lot medically they can do for this condition, and the ups and downs of going to different doctors, different names, different diagnoses, all sorts of things, and each one creates a hurdle of hope, sort of like a run on a ladder that you climb up, believing that there'll be an answer and hopefully a cure, or a way of abating the pain, or abating the inevitable of death, of slow decline and muscle decline, and it's strange over the years that you pray, hope, and actually you find that that's not the case. And then as you pray and hope, this other sort of wave of emotion starts coming and build of that's not the case, and this is getting worse, and this is changing, and the flows of that, sometimes great joy of a very positive day can make that flow of sand in a time glass sort of revert and go back, and you're given a reprieve to the acknowledgement of your body and mind, and the soul is telling you that you are progressing, time is progressing, life is progressing, and you are afforded joy as a way of shielding and numbing the slow realization, the slow aging process, of which I think must be akin to people that grow old. I speak to my grandmother, and she's her sister passed my great aunt, and that was a big change. That's my grandmother's equal. Her husband's passed, and her sister's husband's passed, so she's the last of that generation, and it must be akin, as you get older and your friends pass, you must feel that mortality come to you, and fear must grow, that other wave must grow, the other sundial must grow, and it's strange when people who might have cancer or go through that experience of suddenly that time dial of death suddenly speeds up or suddenly arrives unexpectedly, and that delusion or illusion of the other one, that one of hope, life, and growth is changing. It's not as much sand, and I'm sat here and I'm looking at an image of a tree, and it makes me think of when I was growing up and the cycles of Easter, Christmas, and how as I grew up being as part of the Church of England and a practicing Christian through that I felt very much a part of the cycle of the year, and we were really fortunate to have chickens and animals, and I felt connected to my food. I knew where eggs came from, and there were cows in the fields. I knew where beef and milk came from, and I've often wondered and thought, as I've walked around Sainsbury's, how we don't go to a butcher and we don't see meat prepared, and how disattached we are from where food comes from, or have been, or it feels like we are sometimes as a society that actually when we eat any food, it comes from a plant that has been harvested, and in a sense we kill a part of that plant to eat, we kill that animal to eat, and not just a romanticism of the greengrocers or the butchers, but there was a connection to that, of seeing the cycle of the food change, knowing that tomatoes and raspberries and lettuce came at certain times of the year, and there were certain things you weren't able to get all year round as we grew up, and how that changes in my nephew's generation now. That's not so it's not been the case for a long time with us, and how for me it feels like we've become more disattached from actually the real global cycle, the cycle of the country, the cycle of the countries, cycle of politics, the cycle of the moon, human cycle, death, marriage, birth, and what pain that causes. What pain I've experienced, what pain I see my parents experience, what pain I see my sisters experience. There is this. I'm talking about my naivety here. Actually, it's my naivety that you hear somebody, will have a child, and then you hear that that child passes, and you feel that emotion of the family that goes through that. On quite a different area, but for quite a long time I believed I couldn't have children, being by condition of a genetic disposition, and the grief of around that. But we often believe that the hospital will have the answer, or that there aren't accidents, there aren't miscarriages, there aren't friends and people that die before we expect them to. We never expect anybody to pass over. We never expect to lose a child. We never expect to lose a pet. Though we never know when somebody's going to transcend. It was something I used to get quite stuck on. I'm not meant to be here. Why am I here? Why me? Can sometimes be quite an uncomfortable thing to look at, and that's sort of some of that I looked at again, and I said to my sponsor, how selfish is that of me to really like, why me? And she said, why judge that? Who are you to judge that? And it reminds me of actually the humility of actually stepping away from ever judging any situation. And praying for to have those layers of judgment taken, to have those layers of expectations from me to in lots of different areas of my life. Not judge the person as I walk down the street, not judge Elvis Presley as I had done. I watched a program on him, and to see the relationship between mother and son, and the devotion, and then his drug use and things, and see actually it's just a soul, it's just a human struggling to be human, and in a sense apologise and go, I just didn't know, and we're fed by the media, we're fed by movies, childhood stories that there is always a happy ever after, and actually as I'm growing up, actually the happy ever after is learning or the passing of somebody is a part of it. Because it's when we lose and when we feel pain that actually it cuts through the layers of defence that I put up. I think we all put up. That mask for which I then the person at work sees me, or the home group sees me, or my family sees me. It's actually when my great aunt died that I saw my family in a different way. Seeing other family members in pain brought me closer to them, because I saw them again. I saw them differently. Because I think it does. It opens you. I'm trying not to share it in order to not be vulnerable, and not to share somebody else's vulnerability, because it's a private thing as well. But it is those times when that those beautiful rare times when you are hurting, you are wounded, or the other person's hurted, and you see that they're wounded, that you sit and you reach out. There was a gentleman sat up in the woods, and I'd gone out driving in this chair, and I stopped. There was 3 cans of whatever drank from behind him, and actually he stopped me and he said, do you live around here? And I said yes, and he said, there's rubbish around us. Could you tell them about it? And this gentleman must have been around my age, and he seemed intoxicated, and I said, I'm a member of AA, and I also know people in Narcotics Anonymous, because I made a judgment of this person sat there, and he is it a judgment or assessment? Because I suppose this is what I lost the word when I was trying to explain it before, but I've been praying to work with the angel of discernment, of unconditional love, and I said, if there's always help, sort of thing. And the gentleman said, I think you've got the wrong impression. I'm a mental health nurse, and I could see that he was in a bad way. But that's what I mean. It's one person in pain and reaching out to them, to go through the layers of my own fear of reaching out and feeling that pain in my solar plexus, of the fear of my voice changing, going tight, because reaching out past that comfort zone to somebody else's pain. And as I share this, I'm desperately, I can feel my energy shifting, trying to not show that I'm worried that you will judge me. And it's a powerful, disarming mechanism to be able to be vulnerable and have the bravery to then allow others to judge you, to assess you, to use discernment and validate or quantify to their own experience, hopefully not to mine, but to their own experience, to what this conversation then means to them. How does this conversation then impact upon me? What does this pull up for me? Am I frightened of my child passing? Am I frightened of my daughter being poorly? Am I frightened of my uncle or nephew or and things? It's that's sort of what step that helps you to do and work with another person is to look at that stuff, and that's what spiritual counselling is about. And it's like I suppose I feel a closeness to those experiences of friends passing, of me being ill, to them when people are in pain, because it brings an echo of that back, or not an echo of mine maybe, but maybe an awareness of what they could possibly be feeling, and the pain around that. I can't imagine a lot of it because I'm not in anybody's shoes except for my experience. And I think, when we do go through these experiences, it brings you closer to your alignment or to your soul. Sorry, my leg's going numb. Anybody has really good wheelchair cushion? I'd love one. I was again talking to my sponsor about this, and asking, does this get easier? What is this about when you feel this pain of somebody passing? I believe that all of these things happen for a reason. There's lessons in all of it, but you come down, your soul comes down in this world knowing that certain things are going to happen. You see it in the tarot deck of the Hanged Man, where it is the fated card. You have the fated rune in the rune stones that this was preordained in order to happen for a sequence of events to then spiral out and be created from those things. And I believe when you do have loss or pain of any form, any type, loss of an animal, it brings you into a different sense of alignment. You're brought back to the humility of life, to a pain of life, to what life is. Even I think those words were wrong. To what life is, the sacredness of life, the importance of hope, the importance of love. I'll go into that funeral and I'm reminded of the love of my cousins and the love of my auntie and the love of working with my mother to support my grandmother. And I felt a lot for my family because they'd been through a lot beforehand, and it is an incredibly lonely path, a lot of this stuff that we do, and because you were born into this life on your own to an extent, and you pass from this life on your own, and it brings you back to that very essence of what life is, and it frightens is an odd word to use, but the distortion of which I have lived in, the distortion of which I have been a part of becoming so ungrounded or so untethered to my life, to the experiences of my life, to the experiences of this moment. People suffering with chronic pain are physically drawn to the very moment they're in all the time through that pain. Excuse me. I mean, it's a horrible thing to be in pain, and my body can be in quite extraordinary pain at times. And I'm immensely grateful to my brain or my mind that forgets it quite quickly, that protection, and how it rationalise and normalise things to reduce the pain. But those that are in pain are drawn, those people are grieving, they're drawn to the very essence of that very moment. And sometimes the hardest thing is to be right in that pain of that moment instead of getting lost in the memories of it. We quite often go back to what it was like when they were alive and forward to what it would be like when they're not there. But my soul is showing me is that you are screaming at that love. Buddhism talks to the attachment of love, and it's that attachment that causes pain. But, my soul's showing me the red root chakra, I think it is, and, it's that anchors us, the root chakra, our primary fears. But, it's like a shock in that centre, and it's like the red flows all the way through the soul spinal column, and, your soul grieves the pain. It feels the pain when you have lost. And they there's the angel of eternal love, and as I was saying that to you, I could see the soul growing from that pain. Whether it's this life, past lifetimes, that pain grows. It's like works the muscle, and then it, the different colours and that cord, it shows. As I'm saying this, it's showing me my solar plexus, and that, because I believe this, because it's power, growth, and I can see it flowing through, and these are the images that my head works with in this like spiritual capacity to understand, and to, I suppose it's a form of rationalization. It could be seen as romanticism, but it's a poetic rhythm of which my life can digest, and it's hard, because I sat here and I did some prayers while watching this movie, as it reminds me of people that who are in challenging times, and it's my soul showing me, my inner sight showing me some brackets that are around, like clips around my soul of old held beliefs. Just at the moment as I'm talking to her, I see them undoing the bolt, and they're trying to move them from me, and it's and I sat here and I forgave my friends that have died, and that can sound quite ego-based, and it probably is. It's probably an old part of me, but it's it's that love. Love can be as growing as the soul, the structure of the body. Powerful energy. I mean, everything's love. And it's been, I go through quite a lot of anxiety before going anywhere, especially seeing those that I love, for lots of different fears. Fear that they'll see me being vulnerable, fear that they'll see that my conditions change, which is a lot about me, and that stuff. Anyway, that's my negative self pushing its way onto me energetically a bit there, but didn't like, and it draws a power away, as I've just acknowledged that, but it's I have got that wrong, but I think I might have, but love's quite a strong growing thing in my mind to show me that, and I forgave myself as well for missing those people that have moved over, and thanking them in a sense, because a lot of my friends passed over as I was growing up, and it was quite common to have about three friends die a year, and my voice changes because I've told that so many times. It's a narrative that's been about to judge myself harshly on there, but it was very matter of fact. It's a way of delivering it, instead of going into the pain and into that ball of loss, and that love, because it is love. It's confusion and love, and I'm still working through that. I'm still acknowledging how that's a part of me and that moves in me, and all of this life, all of my life is about continuing to progress and grow and be well, and acknowledge, accept, and incorporate all these experiences that have not always been acknowledged. This attachment, this love, this pain, this grief. I'm immensely, and I thank them for who passed over, because, they are around me so much. I mean, so much. And just sharing that with you, I can feel their love, and it makes me want to cry, because I apologised to them, and I said, sorry for not going and joining them. And I can, laughing at me, and some are going, they know it wasn't my time, and stuff like that. But it's about the fact that, I thank them because, they went before me and they are with me now. They are with me and a part of me and around me. They are who I am. We carry those experiences, those friendships. We essentially seek similar friendships out in life. And there are patterns of pain that I see from friendships that I've sought, and seeing these patterns and these cycles within my own character helps to heal me from making the same judgments, assessments, and not to put myself back into that loop again, I hope. And I share this in order that I hope that you guys might be able to reflect and say, I wonder if I do that. I deliver this as a narrative of mine, but I hope that it allows you to go, if that's going somewhere, that feeling, or that, or what the hell is that guy talking about? What does he know? Those reactions, I've been taught that is the language of my body talking to me. If that's a physical pain or a mental hurt or a disgust feeling, that is a very loud acknowledgement that my soul's talking or my body's talking, and it's highlighting something in me. Is it in here? Is it down here? Is it up here? Or is it in here? Where are the marks within my body that's holding different energies, different experiences? And when we watch a movie, when we read a book, when we feel the lurch of when the dog dies under the car, it pulls forward an emotional response which will be attached to thousands of different things within the mind, and that's how that's created. And so I hope that you can use this form of sharing in order to help Earth and till your soil and see the bulbs of growth that will come forward for you, to plant those bulbs and nurture them to grow to be your life experience, to bring it forward, to allow it to have its cycle and be alright with this stuff being shown, and then at other times being able to protect it and let it die down and then grow again. Because the cycle of loss and grief is ever present in one lifetime. I'm reminded of this through the ever shifting of my care, which keeps me in great turbulence. I keep feeling I'm more secure, and then I feel the sand's moving, and then I don't feel there's any sand, and I'm floating around, but I'm still tethered to the ground. But it's the work is to come get more grounded and become practical and use that Aspie mind and write lists, because I've got massive lists. Talk to the people I spoke with my mum and shared with her about some of the pain and the challenges with money, and asking, is it always like this? And going to those people with wisdom, our elders, and our elders can be my nephew who's 5. He teaches me as much about my child as I watch him grow up. He teaches about my relationship with my father by watching my dad be a granddad. And it's amazing. My dad is amazing. And how healing that is, as children are when they come into life and are part of a family. Because you gain a different perspective on and you are looking from the stadium of a different point of view. And I've not had the experience of birth of a child or the loss of a child, so that isn't, I don't carry that wisdom. But many there are people that I know do, and within the body of a family, that's an amazing resource to pull on, to seek comfort and shelter in. When I do a reading, sometimes we'll be sat in a boat and we will dock along the shore. It's quite a shamanic way, and we're in the third eye mind, and we'll dock to the shore, and we'll come ashore, and there'll be something there and some wisdom to gain, and then we'll be back in the boat and be coming across, and it's the realization that it was a port in the storm. It was a wisdom for time, that the flow of the river travels forward onwards, zagging for the Amazon. And it's really interesting because as I said that, I docked on the riverbank, and I'm shown a dark crystal, I think, or something. It's changing, or a goblet, or chalice. Something being shown to me, or is that right? Like a sports. Anyway, sorry. But that's how it develops on it, and you're shown these pictures, and you share these things, and it's not that I know the answer or what that means, but the person that receives the information knows. It's something of importance. It's my nephew showed me something. It's a trophy, sports trophy. Don't know, but I'm not sure what that means, but it means something. It's about to do with these 3, but and it's amazing. It's amazing, these things, and I think anything that within life that brings us back to the reality, because a lot of life is altering reality, altering perception. Facebook news, caffeine, sugar, they are altering our state of mind in order to shift externally our perception on something, on something. I'm just gone back to a book that a friend of mine, Sarah, gave me, because it's now that time to read that book, and it's of Buddhism and 12 steps, and it's at a stage that I hope to find more peace, more harmony within myself. Again, talking to one of my teachers, and seeing what's been shown to me of the very deep place that I go into, that, I've journeyed down into to gain wisdom from, and I finished the call, and I went back to a place that I saw first off in my first step 4, which I mentioned before about my inner self, and finishing that again, having gone through that exercise again, having gone through the ups and downs of going through, revealing, acknowledging, accepting, praying, turning over, asking for help, to continue to do that. That's in essence what predominantly most of the steps is about, and then forgiveness and things, going and making amends, which is part of the healing and forgiveness and growth. I might have just muddled that a little bit, is actually going back through that process again, going back down to the deep dark places, to work in the sewer pipe and clean that, and really see the bare bones of yourself. This time it wasn't as frightening. It wasn't as frightening to see the golem, to see the shadow self, and to acknowledge it and go, Archangel Michael, please can you take away the shortcomings, those bits of me that are ready to be peeled away and healed, please, to be loved, to bring it back into love, and to alchemy, to transmute and turn over, and to take away the attachment, the confusion, because that's in essence what a blockage is often confusion around a thought and a memory, an idea, and these different forms of spiritual awakenings and healing is finding that wisdom from your soul and taking away that confusion, and acknowledging that positive energy again, love, because all things are. This ring is the love of a man. I think it's a man who made this. That's what a man's craft. Love of the craft. As I hold this, I can feel that there's a woman, attached to it, and that makes me think of my old sponsor, because that's that ring. And it's love. Love. It can quite often be that when we create things, an art project or a piece of work, and it gets slated by another person, or you create, even this this idea of soul gardener was, can be called into question by myself, let alone others, and it's I have to work to remind myself the humility and for what the purpose is of this. It's not just the model of being of service, of one way I've learnt it, but this other this other Buddhist way of cherishing others and to elevate others above yourself. And this is a creation of love, and when those things are questioned, and when we create something and it's broken, or it's lost, or we lose it, or it calls us to question that love, to question that creation, to question that bond between one person and another person, and go, do I love you still? Because we've been through this. To remain in a loving space after breaking up with somebody takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot to work through. All the intricate bits to come at ease and be like, in a sense, you can partition it up and go, I found this part challenging around the confusion attachments to this stuff. But actually, when I take away, as I'm clearing that, as I'm thinking about somebody in my mind, and I'm clearing away that confusion, I love actually the whole person. and to come back to that actually I love that whole person, not the confusion my mind's brought, or the confusion their behaviours or actions have caused, because they are, without getting too deep into this, they are still my interpretations of their behaviour. It's never their actions in love. And that's immensely hard work to do, especially when you lose somebody. Whether that's a partner, and we all then left with the children to bring up and things, that can carry a sense of an immense amount of guilt, and that kind of work of laying that aside, and I didn't. My head said, careful of flippancy there, and it's not that I am demarginalising at all. So please, it's like would be asking me to easily lay aside my disability. These things aren't done like this. Sometimes we can do this and switch it off and ignore it in the mind and then say it's not there. But I believe that when we don't acknowledge these things, it lays an imprint or a drawing on the soul that can cause physical manifestations. The Healing Hands of Light book talks about that in shamanic, a sense of healing talks about going to the root. AA talks about the root causes. When you journey, when you look at an energetic body, you go to where's this come from. As I'm talking and I'm sharing this with you, my mind's connecting things in quite a beautiful way to make reasoning out of experiences that I've had. And I thank you for listening, if you have listened, and I'm thankful to the energies of this house, of all the experiences of my family, my cousins, my auntie, all of them that have been a part of my life to have energetically, emotionally, physically and spiritually got me here. And it can be, the simplest thing of being able to see them on Facebook and know that they're alive and well and enjoying their lives whilst coping with immense stuff going on, and travelling and stuff. And that's a joy to see, and I'm grateful to be able to do that through this computer and stuff most of the time. I'm not in my confusion. Spiritual awakenings and shamanic work and Buddhism and other things is, Christianity and living in a spiritual cycle or religious cycle or a school cycle or work cycle. Some of those are healthy because they bring us back. It was shamanically and spiritually bring you back to reconnecting to the very ground that's beneath your feet, and reconnecting back physically to your body, which I still struggle with. It's an odd experience of going through ill health and developing a relationship back with your own masculinity and your own femininity, and a man and a woman has both a masculine side and a feminine side, and essentially having male and female friends helps you work on that stuff, or that's what I believe parents do. Predominantly the first blueprints of that which you learn about, you know, the male and the female from your parents. And you know, I heard somebody say the other day that, you know, so I think it was on the Sopranos, that you'll be careful your daughter uses you as the blueprint for all future husbands. And you know, you hear that, don't you? You know, or that he's married a spitting image of his mother. You know, and there's movies, don't you? You know, the judgment of that's what it is. And you know, I wonder, you know, is that the case for all of this? And you know, is that, you know, is that in essence what you learn by when you marry? You marry a woman and you learn the lessons and all the roles of what being a parent is and being married, and you see the experiences of what your mother and father had from your own eyes. Do you marry a woman like that's similar to your mother, but in order to learn lessons? Is that why you're drawn? You know, is that well, I don't know. I suppose that's your soul journey or other soul journeys. You know, it's interesting. It's somebody shared with me an idea. I don't know if I shared it on the last one, but I've heard this mentioned in a reading done before, is that certain souls are meet up numerically, you know, 117 years as a number I've been shown in my head, 117 to 118 years, that a group of people come together for a particular lifetime for a particular reason. 71 years, you know, for a particular reason, for a lifetime, and you know, you've come to learn the lessons again, or to learn or finish learning a lesson that you met them that time before, to right a wrong from the time you met them last time, and these are clusters of souls that come back. Sorry, that's the bit I missed. And you know, these clusters of souls that come, and you were in this sequence for a particular reason. You know, a numerical mathematical equation. I don't know. I don't know a lot too much, not at all anything about that sort of thing. But I can sort of see a symbolism in that, and a reasoning through sort of my beliefs. So yeah, so it's come a long way from where we started, but I suppose, you know, I asked a friend who said, I messaged her following the breadcrumbs, and I asked, she sent me a message and said thank you for the last video for being vulnerable and sharing, and how that she'd shared it on for somebody else, and she shared with me a comment, and I said, well, you know, would you actually put that on the video, because, you know, I think it helps us, you know, helps me to read it later, and you know, to come back and read it and see how I've changed from that time of seeing it, and helps others to see that, you know, it's okay to share and to talk, and to see that everybody is just human, and everyone suffers, no matter who they are or what they are doing, and each person's suffering is different, to their own unique makeup, but you know, essentially we were all people trying to get well, and even the healthiest person will have something wrong, because they will, you know, still be afflicted by the fact of death, of aging. And that sort of brings us back to the Buddhism and cherishing life, cherishing cherishing the opportunity to have those relationships and create create the home, the family for the dogs, create life. And it's I think this part of my recovery is I feel it's starting to move in this direction, is to rotate that extra couple of notches round, because I was I've been praying a lot, saying, please can you help me physically, mentally and spiritually mature, in essence to grow up, to come forward into myself instead of hiding behind those layers, and come present forward out of that. Because it's taking training to do that motion, because I don't know, maybe the chakras aren't all fully unlocked, or to that degree unlocked, or I'm not used to flowing in I'm not used to flowing in that direction, or whichever direction it's meant to be, and it's like the wheel of time. For me, it's I get stuck on the record player, and it's like zzz, zzz, zzz. And it's working with others and sharing dialogue like this, writing it down, working with other people, listening to other people, that you are then shown the different mirror positions around a point on the hexagon, for which it then loops, and then you see actually I've actually been praying for that, and so I have been in discomfort, because there have been things that have been coming up, different friends coming forward and going, of a testing of my boundaries and my emotional security, where I am at with those relationships with men, and them coming forward and going, is this? I'd like to be friends, and I believe that when you ask and you call in for these lessons, that these lessons will come forward, and they have done, and I've been uncomfortable. And what I'm trying to say is it's not until I'm graced to or allowed to see the different position. Once I've stopped trying to see the position, actually, and then it's shown, and it's my attachment to that person, my desire to be rescued or looked after, and actually that's not the avenue in which that energy can go, and that energy needs to stay inwards and grow upwards, and help the top of the tree to flourish and grow. That certain energies or certain kind of self-regard and self-governance, of which that maturity calls you to strength, to stand forward and go, actually I can manage this now. And when praying and asking for these tests, it's being able to acknowledge that they are the lessons that are happening, and be grateful for it, because I glitch and I get stuck on I'm in pain, I'm uncomfortable, what's going on, why is it me? And it can reduce me right back down to that default setting of why me, that child point. And I think it's nearly in essence when I'm back there that then I'm able to go back up again stronger. like I've been in a stop moment or something, and you're tested, and then it's acknowledgement of going, thank you. I love and acknowledge your grace, but I'm not of that. I'm not there. I'm not of that person now. And yeah, I'm not of that person now, and to acknowledge that and respect that dignity within myself, and try to hold on to it, to try to carry that light for as long as possible before one, I either forget it, lose it, or it's depleted, and that's a whole different ball game. That's a whole different bit of learning that I'm not always too sure on how that works. So I suppose that's kind of where I am with some of that stuff, and it's just a different area of growth, and I do a lot of this work through 12-step meetings, phone calls with friends, one-to-ones with people come to visit me. I use my cards to help guide me, working with others, pardon me, because they're part of those lessons, pardon me, and it's like it's like acknowledging the fact that when I sit down to do a reading or a healing, it's less and less about me and what I'm doing and how I'm doing it right, or about how they're experiencing it, or whether I'm doing it right for them, or if they're getting what they want from it. It's about letting it be what it is, because the energy of Reiki creates a unique healing for that very moment in time, for that very person, for them to have what their soul needs, their mind needs, what their guides need them to experience at that time. And there is a sense of responsibility to allow that to happen, with respect and dignity, to what's happening. I'm writing something out. Today it's about acknowledging that before anybody comes, before you come and visit me, it's to know that I might not be the right person for you to come and see. I might not be, we might not gel, not gel is the wrong word, but we might not tune in particularly well on that day. I might not be able to, you might not be able to, and that there is a lesson, I think, that takes place in that experience. And it can be that actually, in my experience, it's been that the wrong advice given to me is to prove that the advice that I was given from within was the right advice for me. And it can be that though the experience you came for wasn't the one that you had, it's the one that you needed, and it will hopefully be there for the next experience to come. Because it's ultimately there's something bigger, greater than me that's going on, or you, or the way is going on in those times. And yeah, powerful stuff for a Sunday. Deep dude. But yeah, I mean, it's such a unique thing. And I'm so lucky and fortunate to to experience it. Experience it in my life are completely different to what it was like before. Before it's probably happening. I bet it was happening before I was even consciously aware of it. And doing this kind of work, any kind of work that you're doing, going counselling or talking regularly with your loved one, looking at these things, having these experiences, finding your own meaning in them, writing about them, journaling them, blogging them, doing artwork, if it fuels the creativity side. This is amazing stuff, because you're tapping into that essence of your soul, and it's a way of you naturally being brought closer, in my belief, to your path, and being grounded on your path to walk. And ultimately, a lot of the experiences in life, tend to put you back onto the centre of a path instead of veering off, which is sort of what I do. I kind of meander sometimes. I'll sit down, have a picnic on the road, get stuck with a foot in a hole. No teacher is ever perfect, I don't think. No, I'm not. I can sometimes struggle with a great sort of darkness that I can feel at times, and I draw from a belief that I think that because my soul is immensely old, and many souls are, is that we have all experiences in life. We choose to come back and have all of the experiences in order to be a rounded person. I'm having this experience this lifetime, and trying to stay grateful for that. Is, I think, helps by sharing it and things, but that's the real, that's just, that's big for one lifetime. Because I'm not when I'm in a hospital or appointment, I can tell you when my care's running around on me, or I'm worried about bills. It's very hard to remain in those places. But that's what life practice is. That's what spiritual practice is. That's what getting on with life is. That's what my mum said. Putting your big boys pants up. Oh no, is that my sponsor? You're not at that step yet, David. You're not up putting your big boy pants up and getting on with it. But so if you are questioning, and these experiences are happening to you, and makes me think of John the barman, friend of mine in AA, who's passed over, and don't know if I've ever met him yet in spirit form, but no. They are there. They are there all around you. They're sat in the car next to you, on the back seat. The pets that pass over are at the end of the bed when you're asleep, and I feel them walk across the bed, and I see the duvet go down, and I see the sparkles in the rooms, and the shadow behind me in the bathroom, and they're so they're so a part of us. They're so a part of us. Any soul that comes down to heaven, comes down from heaven or from the hunting plains or the halls of Valhalla, or and come back to Earth for this creation. It's sometimes they are called back up because it isn't the right time. And it's that it isn't the right time, and I believe from reading this book and the connections and things is that, and I believe that when you go back up there, you find out why. It's a bit like if you get plugged back into the mainframe, you suddenly arrive with all the other sides to all the other angles that you didn't see. And then it's a whole picture, and you meet all those loved ones again. And it's an amazing thing, to have them around and feel them in this lifetime. So just reach out, if you are missing someone, if you're having a rough time, or you're still feeling the grief because it's an anniversary, or somebody's gone over recently, or talk to them, light a candle, talk to them, write to them. They'll be there, on your shoulder, just over your shoulder, and they will, ask for a sign, and they'll show you a sign. Ask to meet them in your dreams, and you will. Immense healing happens when you're asleep or meditating and stuff. So I've sort of wandered around a bit there. Sorry, guys. But I just thought I'd share with you a bit. I hope you can still see me. So I hope you've all had a blessed and wonderful weekend. And thank you again if you've tuned in. Please do. You can follow me on Instagram. I sometimes write a blog and a couple of other things. Maybe if you fancy coming and see me just for a chat, cup of tea, and see where it takes us. Each experience is different and unique, and we'll both be learning along the road. It'd be an honour and a pleasure to walk with you for a while. And take care, God bless, have a safe 24, and know that you are loved always. Good night.